actually being a functioning member of society today after not being a functional member for 2 days because of Crescent City 3. I literally did nothing outside of like work, you know? I literally didn't do anything except read. I sat on my couch and read, and even the cats were starting to be like, okay, we're kind of sick of you reading this book because you're not really paying attention to us, and that's not really our vibe. That little piece of hair that just sticks out, I promise it goes away soon, but oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. But anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. Today we are here to do my January wrap up. So I had like a pretty decent start to the year. How many books did I, but I haven't updated this. I think I read 11 books, but I'm only going to talk about 10 of them because I didn't really like one of them and I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm going to talk about the 10 that I would recommend. So let's start off with my first read of the year that is also like my favorite read of the month. I did have quite a few rereads, so we'll be going through all of those as well. But this was my favorite new book that was almost bad. I almost just spilled my coffee. My favorite book of the month, that was also my first read of the year, is The Good Girl by Nikki Sloan. I freaking loved this book. So this is the 5th book in the Nashville Neighbors series. I don't know if this series is done now or if Nikki Sloan is going to keep writing more books in it, but regardless, this is now my new favorite in the series. This has surpassed The Doctor and The Frat Boy for me. So these ones though are complete standalones. You don't have to read the first 4 in order to read this one. It's more just like you see the other couples and characters. So this one follows Preston and Sydney, and it is a brother's best friend, good girl, bad boy kind of romance. So Sydney, she's in college, and her older brother, Colin, is the hero from The Frat Boy, which if you have read that book, he, has a job making some adult content, and he has been completely shunned from their family because of it. She has very strict parents, and they now have pretty much poured all of their attention into Sydney and being like, okay, we lost one of our kids. We need to make sure that this kid is perfect. So Sydney has a lot of expectations on her. She's going to school. She really wants to be going to culinary school, but her parents are like, nope, you're going to get a traditional education. And she just really is like kind of suffering under their oppression. And she does, however, start kind of getting reunited with her brother a little bit. And one day at a pool party for his college graduation, she ends up running back into Preston, who is Colin's best friend. And Preston does not recognize her right away because immediately he's like, who is this woman? I'm so attracted to her. And then he's like, oh my gosh, that's my best friend's little sister. And they kind of have a little bit of a moment, but Colin warns Preston to stay away from her because Preston, okay, so if you read The Doctor, which is the first book, it's an ex-boyfriend's dad romance, and Preston was the ex-boyfriend. And in The Doctor, Preston sucks. Preston is like a piece of garbage, but he really has had a lot of growth over the past few years. He's grown up. He started a business. He's made peace with his dad. He's working on his relationship with his dad. And he's just really trying to grow up and kind of turn his image around a little bit. And they both are very attracted to each other. However, Preston's like, Colin is my best friend. He was there for me when no one else was. Like, he asked me to stay away from you. I can't just like betray that. However, Sydney wants to learn how to be bad, and she recruits Preston for that. And Preston not reluctantly, but he does end up agreeing because he's like, if it's not me, it'll be someone worse. So it ends up being their romance. I just loved this. I loved their connection. I thought the pacing was great. Sometimes in some of these other Nashville Neighbor books, I feel like the smut kind of overrides the plot in this one, but this one I felt like it was really evenly spaced out with like obviously good spice, but then like great emotional development between the two of them and individual character development. I just loved everything about this book. I literally have not a single complaint. My favorite of the month. Then I've had some rereads. Let's go back. Okay, so I'll lump these two together because I listened on audio to Bound by Honor and Bound by Hatred by Cora Riley. So I read these books originally like 4 years ago. My favorite mafia books of all time. I mean, the Camorra Chronicles as well. The Camorra Chronicles are actually my favorites, but these ones are right up there with them. I just love Cora Riley's mafia books. But Bound by Honor is the very first book in the Born in Blood Chronicles. This is Arya and Luca, and it is a mafia arranged marriage romance. So Arya is the daughter of a Chicago mafia family, and Luca is the son and about to be, or one day will be, capo of the New York family, and they are rivals. However, the two mafias need to bridge the gap between them because they need to take on bigger enemies. So they do that through marriage, through Luca and Arya. And Arya does not want to get married to Luca. She has only heard like bad things, that he like literally crushed someone's throat with his bare hands. And she's like, I don't like that. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I think that sounds fun. I digress. She doesn't want to do that, but of course it ends up being their arranged marriage. It's their romance. I just love these books. These are like old school kind of mafia. These are like Godfather type mafia vibes. These are not like a lot of the newer mafia type books, which I do like, but I will always have an affinity for these really like old school kind of ones. And I just absolutely love this. And it is told only through a single POV. Luca's POV has its own separate book. I'll probably reread that one at some point, but I just love Luca. He remains my favorite New York man. However, then I skipped Bound by Duty. I didn't want to reread that one. I still love it, but I just didn't have an interest. But Bound by Hatred, I was so happy to reread this one because this one was my favorite in Born in Blood, and it still remains my favorite book out of them all. This one is Gianna and Matteo. Matteo is the younger brother of Luca from book 1 that I just talked about, and Gianna is the younger sister of Aria from book 1. So immediately, Gianna has just hated everything about the mafia lifestyle. She does not want to be involved in it. She doesn't like anything about this world, and she really fights back against it. Has kind of dreams of running away, and then when Matteo ends up arranging a marriage between the two of them, she's like, I am not marrying this dude. I need to get out of here. Hi, do you want to come up here? Hi. You wanted to come up here and say hi? You can sit here if you want while I talk. Okay, so anyways, Matteo ends up arranging a marriage with Gianna. So one thing you need to know about Matteo, he's a little bit unhinged. He loves to just like whip his knives out. He loves a good challenge. And Gianna challenges him in the best way. She immediately like does not take any of his shit. She just like clocks him right away and like kind of riles him up. She likes to get under his skin. He likes to get under her skin. She's like, you know what? If I have to marry at some point, I might as well marry her. But then as soon as she hears that, she's like, yeah, no, screw that. I'm running. And yeah, Matteo's not going to just let her run. He's not going to let her run. He's going to chase her. And it ends up being their romance. I just truly, again, loved this one just as much this second time around. They still remain my favorite couple and my favorite book in the series. And Matteo is right there behind Luca for me. What did I read? Next up, I read the rest of the story by Tal Bauer. I am still very much in my hockey romance mode. I can't get enough of them. And I read this one. So this one is an teammates, like friends to lovers kind of romance. So it is single POV. So our hero that you're following, our POV, and it's his name Morgan, I think. He is an NHL player, and he ends up getting a call from his agent that he is going to this team that is basically like collecting dust in the NHL. They always lose. They have like no sponsors, like literally it's like where hockey players go to die, kind of like where their careers go to die. And he's like, what am I doing getting traded here? But he ends up going, and one of his old friends and teammates is actually on the team. So he gets a call from him and he's like, let me know as soon as you get here. We need to meet up and talk. And when he arrives, he's kind of like, why were you so urgent on me to get here? And he finds out that this team is in like huge trouble. Their captain is horribly abusive to their team, like verbally, physically, mentally, emotionally, every single kind of abuse. He is abusing them all. And then their coach is like complicit in it. Their team management is complicit in it. And all of these players genuinely are struggling so bad, and they genuinely don't know how to like get out of it. They don't know how to fix anything. They don't know who to turn to. So Morgan ends up finding out that they actually talk to people to try to get him traded there because they thought that he might be able to make a difference. And when he shows up, he sees this team captain, sees how he's treating the rookie class, which is where our other hero comes into play, but we'll talk about him in a moment. And he immediately gets in there and he's like, like this is not gonna fly with me. And it kind of ends up being this team's overhaul, and Morgan kind of leading the charge, some new staff coming in, whatever, and them really like overhauling this team and all of these and this entire team healing over the course of this book. And one of our other heroes, he is a rookie on the team, although he's a little bit older because he like finished his degree before going into the NHL. Even though he's very talented and he could have gone in earlier, he wanted to finish his degree. So now he is also on the team, and he and Morgan immediately kind of like each other. I loved all of like the team bonding and the found family aspect that comes into play here, and it really is like a true underdog story. It's so good. The hockey's really great in it. I liked the romance a lot between our two heroes. My one and only thing with it is single POV. I wanted Shay's POV so badly. Especially in romances, I like getting both POVs because I want to see the connection on both sides from the characters. Dorian, stop doing that. His sister was just sleeping and he had to go over and start bullying her. This is the face of a bully. Yeah, you're such a stinker. Sissy was sleeping. Why do you have to be mean to her? He does that a lot. She'll like just be minding her own business and then he'll go and make it his business. Anyways, I think I was just saying about the POV, the single POV. I really wish that we got Shay's POV. We don't get it in here, and I really would have liked that. But this story is really, really beautiful, and it was just a really, really good book. I really enjoyed it and would definitely recommend if you are also like me and very much still in the hockey mood. Okay, let's talk about these three. Again, we had 2 rereads and a new book. I reread both of the first 2 Crescent City books ahead of the 3rd Crescent City book that just came out. Oh, Crescent City, in case if you don't know, this is would it be called high fantasy? So it's a fantasy series following Bryce Quinlan. She is half fae, half human, and she lives in this place called Crescent City. And it is basically, like, the best way I can describe it is like a Zootopia kind of place. There are like mermaids, vampires, humans, fae, shifters, wolves, angels, like all of these, you know, like fun fantasy creatures. And she kind of gets pulled into some of the politics and some murder investigating going on here. I don't know. I feel like so many people have already heard about this series, and I honestly don't really know how to talk about it, I guess, because I don't know like what isn't spoiled for people who haven't read it before, because there is like kind of an event at the beginning that kind of like takes place and the whole story kind of goes from there, but I don't know if people know that going in. So ugh, the life of a parent. Got cats beefing out there. Okay, anyways. It ends up following Bryce and Hunt. So, and Hunt is an angel who is tasked with Bryce to kind of like look into investigating these murders. I don't know, this is gonna be a really bad explanation because like I said, I don't want to accidentally spoil anything for anyone who hasn't read it. But so I reread the first Crescent City book and the second one to get prepared for book 3. So this one still I think is my second favorite in the series. This one is my least favorite, and it's actually one of my least favorite Sarah J. Maas books. With that said, still gave it 5 stars the first time that I read it, and I still think the second time around I'd probably give it a 4, mostly for the ending of this book. If you know, you know. If you don't, I'm not going to say anything, but I just will forever and always remember the way that this book made me feel the first time that I read it. It was the first book where I think I've genuinely been so shocked, and I've never read anything like it. So I reread both of those in anticipation for House of Flame and Shadow. So I'm not going to say anything about this book at all because I'm going to have a full vlog posted next week of me reading this, but I will just say that I loved it, and now I guess we have to wait for the next one. So yeah. And also this cover. These covers are sickening, and that genuinely I think is one of her best paced books ever. The pacing was perfect in it. Sometimes when I'm filming, I can just tell that a video is going to be a shit show to edit. This is one of those times. This is one of those times. Okay, I think I only have 3 books left to talk about. So actually this I think might be one of my quickest wrap-ups because like I said, I didn't read that many books, and also I had some rereads, and like those I'm not even really saying anything about. So let's go into my last books that I read. So I read Distrust and Dishonor by G.N. Wright. So these are the first 2 books in the Hollowed Crows MC. I'll talk about Distrust first. This so far is still my favorite that I've read. So, I should have looked up, let me look up her name because that's going to bother me. I normally do this ahead of time, but like I said, I've been an unfunctioning person in society since Crescent City 3 came out and wasn't doing literally anything for days. And now I didn't prep for this video at all. And now this is what's happening. Okay, so Rebecca, Aiden, Ezra, and wait, what was the last one's name now? Killian. So Rebecca is the daughter of the president of the Hollowed Crows MC. Growing up, both of her parents tried to keep her away from the motorcycle club, and she lived with one of her aunts. And then I think when she's like 14, she goes over to the motorcycle club like compound. She breaks in and she runs into 3 of the members there, Killian, Ezra, and Aiden. And they immediately are like, who are you? And then the boss comes around the corner and he was like, what are you doing here? And he warns all of them. He's like, stay away from her. And he tries to keep Rebecca away from the club as much as possible, but she ends up becoming really good friends with those 3 guys and then another member of the MC. And as she grows up, she always like has this crush on the 3 of them. And then when she finally turns 18, they aren't that much older than her. I think maybe like a year or 2. And when she finally turns 18, she makes her move on the 3 of them. And she's like, hey, you 3 are besties. And 2 of the guys are also together secretly. And she's like, hey, what do you think we all like change our friendship dynamic a little bit? And they have a night together. However, then the next morning she wakes up, they're all gone, and something ends up happening to Rebecca. She ends up getting taken for 2 years by the mayor. And she's basically held there by him for 2 years until she is finally returned. And then where we are in the present, her father has now passed away trying to rescue her. And Aiden is now the new president, and they all hate her. They hate her and she hates them, and there has been a lot of stuff that has gone down in all 4 of their lives over the past couple of years, and all of them hold a lot of resentment towards like the other side. So it ends up being her romance with the 3 of them, and also 2 of them are together as well. It's like second chance kind of, and it's like friends to enemies to lovers kind of vibes. So it's 4 books, and I've read the first 2. So Distrust so far is still my favorite. Dishonor, I can't really talk about because it's a continuation, but Distrust ended on such a cliffhanger that I was like, I had to keep going. And the second book also ended on a cliffhanger, but I needed a little bit of a break. I'm stopping before I read the last 2, but I really enjoyed these books. I really enjoyed the start of this series. I really like her writing being dark. The only other book I've read by Jan Wright was The Puck Secret, and it's definitely a lot lighter. I personally actually like her writing dark romance like this. I thought it was really good. Rebecca is not like, she is not going to be pushed around by the 3 of them. She's a very strong heroine, and even when they think that they're pushing her to the brink, in her mind she's like, give me what you got, like trust me, anything that you do to me right now is not worse than anything that he did to me, the mayor. There also is some miscommunication, which honestly in the first book I was not annoyed with. I totally got why both parties weren't talking to each other and didn't want to share like the information. I totally understood in the first book. Second book I started to be like, okay guys, maybe have a conversation. I still kind of understood it. And yeah, I am excited to finish the series because these first 2 books were really good. I really enjoyed them. And also, if you are not, I'm not the biggest motorcycle club fan. I will say these are not super strong like motorcycle club. Like, I don't know, you know how I kind of struggle sometimes like with the biker lingo and like just how like a lot of them talk and stuff. I don't know. I didn't feel like that was like as prevalent in these books. It's obviously still there. It's still a factor, but it's good. But heed any triggers going into it, they can get a little, you know, pushing limits. And last but not least, another reread that I did was Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. I listened to the audiobook of this one. Thank you to whoever had commented and told me that it was on Spotify, because I reread the first 3 in December, and then I was like, why is Twisted Lies not on my Hoopla? And it is on Spotify. However, I did run out of listening hours with like an hour and a half left of this, and I was like, are you kidding me? Can you just like let me finish my book? But I had to wait like 6 days for them to renew, and I'm like, this is stupid. If you want to limit it, then just like limit how many audiobooks you can listen to, not how many hours, and then cut me off in the middle of a book. Rude. But anyways, this one follows Christian and Stella. It's the 4th book in the Twisted series. You don't have to read the first 3 in order to have this one make sense. You just see the other couple. So Christian Harper is a billionaire. He owns the security company. He's very high up in his industry, very well respected, but also he's kind of watched out for because he's known as being a little bit of a snake. And Stella is an influencer. She's a model, and she really is trying to like build her brand, and she really wants this big brand partnership after she is fired from her job as an assistant, and she really needs it. However, she doesn't really have as high as numbers as some of the other people that are kind of in the running for it, and she really needs a boost. And she sees that people are getting boosts when they get in relationships. She's like, wouldn't that be kind of nice if I had someone to like be my boyfriend and boost my profile? And Christian, who is like kind of obsessed with her and has lowered the rent in his apartment building that he owns, so that way she can rent there. He's like, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity. I'll be your fake boyfriend. And she's like, you don't do anything for free. What do you want in exchange? And in exchange, he wants someone to accompany him to events to kind of show people like, look, hey, I'm like a domesticated guy. Like, I'm not someone to fear. I have a girlfriend, and like I'm a kind of like appeal to the family men a little bit more in the industry and kind of like help his image out a little bit. So they end up striking up this mutually beneficial arrangement, and it ends up going from there. There's also a stalker plot line. Stella has a stalker that, let me tell you, Christian is not messing around when it comes to her safety. He's very much touch her and I'll kill you. Absolutely love that. Yeah, and I just love this book. I love this book. Twisted series forever and always will forever be one of my favorite romance series. Every single book is 5 stars to me. Every single one of them is a favorite. Christian still, I think, is my number 2. Man, him and Alex really go back and forth. It changes by the day. Them as a couple, though, I don't know. I would have said that they were my number 3 couple, but honestly, after rereading Twisted Games, I feel like Reese and Bridget maybe top them. But I absolutely love this book. I absolutely love it. So if you haven't read the Twisted series yet, I don't know what you're doing, but they're all great and I love them all. So anyways, that is it for my January reads. I feel like this was honestly a pretty fast wrap up because, like I said, I had a lot of rereads. I was not planning on rereading Crescent City 1 and 2. So that kind of like jacked a lot of my plans for January because that is 1,600 pages worth of those 2 books. And then the third book was like 835. So it took up a lot of my reading time, but you know, it had to be done. I'm very glad that I did reread them ahead of Flame and Shadow. So anyways, that's it for today's video. I don't know what's going to go up next. Well, I'll have my House of Flame and Shadow reading vlog, I think probably next Friday. And then next Tuesday, I don't know what video you're gonna get on Tuesday. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. So anyways, that is it for today's video, and I will see you when I see ya.